The woman accidentally noticed an old lady finding a solid gold teapot in an oil drum. Such an unexpected fortune couldn't fall into someone else's hands, so she immediately followed her, sneaking into the old lady's house when she got the chance. To her surprise, the old lady placed the golden teapot on a plain little table. At that moment, the old lady turned away to answer the phone, giving her the opportunity to stealthily approach the teapot. Seeing such a beautiful treasure, Alice couldn't hide her excitement and immediately grabbed the teapot. Running out of the house, a bewildered John saw Alice urgently pushing him to start the car, and he reluctantly sped away. Just as Alice was happily admiring her prize, she realized the teapot was actually made of brass. Disappointed, the two returned home, unaware that this teapot would soon turn their lives upside down. Early the next morning, Alice accidentally burned herself with a curling iron while doing her hair. Strangely, the teapot nearby seemed to move. When she opened the lid, she found $200 inside. Amazed, Alice quickly pulled out the bills and sniffed them, a strange thought flashing through her mind. She burned herself again, and sure enough, another stack of money appeared in the teapot this time. It was $700. Her theory was spot on. The amount of money the teapot produced was directly proportional to the severity of the user's injury, making it a super money-making machine. So, she kicked the table leg, the intense pain making her hop around. When she looked at the teapot, there was indeed another stack of cash inside. Still unsatisfied, she slammed her hand against the cabinet, and the teapot spewed out even more bills. When John came home from work, he found Alice covered in bruises, lying motionless in bed, and immediately assumed she had been attacked. But Alice said nothing, instead bringing him to the living room and handing him the teapot, telling him to touch it. Then she slapped him across the face. Before John could process what was happening, Alice opened the teapot and poured out piles of cash, explaining the teapot's secret to him. John didn't believe her, thinking it was all some elaborate setup. Before he could finish his sentence, Alice kneed him hard, and as expected, more cash gushed from the teapot. They spent the entire night experimenting and found that the amount of money was directly related to the intensity of physical pain. Alice declared that if they continued, they could become the richest people in the world. But John wasn't on board. He believed that even with all the money in the world, it was worthless if they destroyed themselves in the process. Alice, however, disagreed with John, and even slept with the teapot tightly held in her arms. But when she woke up, her precious teapot was gone, and she found a note from John on the nightstand. Fearful of the dangers the teapot might bring, John decided to return it to its original owner. But when he arrived at the old lady's house, he found it completely empty. To him, the teapot was a ticking time bomb, and he was determined not to let it fall back into Alice's hands. So, he took it to an auction house to sell it, but the experts identified it as a relic from a mysterious Eastern kingdom over 2,000 years old, with an unquantifiable value. However, little did he know, a crisis was quietly looming over him. Later, John and Alice went to the library to search for clues about the teapot. Sure enough, they found some hints in an ancient book, which recorded that the brass teapot possessed a special magic, but no one who used it ever met a good end. Afraid that John would discover the truth, Alice quickly tore out the page and stuffed it into her bag, unaware that this act would ultimately doom them both. Back at home, they made a pact. Neither of them could reveal the secret to a third person. Then, they both placed their hands near the stove flame, causing $100 bills to spew from the teapot. But that wasn't enough. To speed up their wealth accumulation, Alice went to a beauty salon for a full body waxing. John, even more extreme, had a dentist pull out his teeth without anesthesia. Aiming for maximum pain, they used every method imaginable to chase physical pain, quickly amassing $1.94 million in cash. John then bought his dream luxury car outright, and Alice got the diamond ring she had never dared to dream of. They even bought a huge mansion. The couple, who once couldn't afford rent, became overnight millionaires, indulging in luxury and wealth. During a lavish party they hosted, a mysterious man with an Eastern appearance showed up at their door. It turned out he was Dr. Lang, an occultist specializing in antiques, and he had come specifically for the teapot, hoping they would hand it over. However, the couple, tempted by the immense power of the teapot, refused to give it up and immediately sent Ling away. Little did they know, they had just invited disaster. That night, they were awakened by a noise and rushed to the door to peek through the crack. They saw two thieves stealing money from their house. Terrified, Alice pushed John out. In a panic, he grabbed a nearby floor lamp to defend himself, but the thieves claimed that the teapot was a family heirloom stolen from their antique shop. They had found its whereabouts through an appraisal show but didn't plan to take it this time. Alice, unwilling to give up even a single penny, charged at them and started attacking, but they were no match for the thieves and were quickly knocked unconscious. When they woke up, they found all their money and valuables had been been stolen. Finally realizing the severity of the situation, they quickly went to Ling's house to learn the truth, and Ling handed them a stack of pictures. He told them that the brass teapot had a 2,000-year history and that many people had used it throughout history, but all had met tragic ends. If it fell into the wrong hands, it could bring irreversible consequences. Even if used by good people, it would still spell disaster. However, Alice's greed had reached an unimaginable level. She insisted that she would use the teapot with great restraint and that she would never give it to anyone, but when they returned home and tried to use the teapot again, they found that its money-producing effect was weakening. In order to maintain their lavish lifestyle, they resorted to more extreme measures. They went to an underground bar, ordered 2 shots of absinthe, and downed them without hesitation. Then they targeted a hulking man, provoking him by rubbing up against him from behind. Surprisingly, the man wasn't angered by the provocation but instead pulled John into a tight embrace. Feeling violated, John slapped the man across the face. This enraged the man, who began to mercilessly beat John, causing the teapot to spew out money continuously. But as he took out the trash, the mysterious Dr. Ling appeared again. He warned John that the teapot's negative effects were starting to manifest. If they didn't stop using it immediately, the dreadful consequences would be irreversible. Meanwhile, Alice took the teapot everywhere she went. One day, a young man on a skateboard accidentally fell nearby. To her surprise, the teapot reacted violently and produced a large amount of cash. She quickly told John about her new discovery, and their greed reached new heights. They went to a sports arena to watch a boxing match. As long as they were close enough to the fighters, the teapot would continually spit out money, but it wasn't enough for them. They started watching people get tattoos at a parlor, and even went to a hospital to watch women give birth. They quickly amassed more money than they could ever have imagined earning in a lifetime. Yet, their greed remained insatiable, and the darkness within them began to emerge. One day, a homeless man was jaywalking, and instead of slowing down, Alice pressed the gas, intending to hit him. Fortunately, John sensed her intent and swerved just in time to avoid a tragedy, but Alice was relentless, blaming the homeless man for jaywalking, saying he would have deserved it if he had been hit. John felt that she had completely lost her mind. He insisted that the teapot must be handed over to Ling. Alice instantly flew into a rage, verbally attacking John nonstop. Furious, Alice immediately turned around and got out of the car. Just then, the teapot spewed out a large amount of cash once again. This left them both stunned. Neither of them had been physically hurt, yet money still came out. Could it be that emotional pain from insults could also produce money? So they immediately started mentally torturing John, and sure enough, a big pile of cash appeared in the teapot. It seemed all their suspicions were correct, but their next actions would lead them to a point of no return. John confessed to Alice that while playing poker, he was thinking about his ex-girlfriend. As he spoke, money began to fly out of the teapot. However, Alice wasn't innocent either. She admitted that after they got married, she had been with another man, their former landlord. In an instant, cash started spewing from the teapot like snowflakes filling the air. This completely enraged John, who immediately drove to the landlord's house and started banging on the door. The landlord and his girlfriend came out to see what was happening, and John wasted no time exposing the landlord's dirty secrets. The girlfriend was instantly infuriated, and the angry landlord headbutted John, knocking him down. As Alice put down her bag to help John, the landlord spotted the brass teapot. He picked it up and found it stuffed with cash. Alice quickly snatched the teapot back, but the landlord clearly sensed something was off. On their way back home, they noticed that attacking each other wasn't yielding the same results as before, so they turned their attention to those around them, starting by knocking on their neighbor's door early in the morning. They told the husband that it was his wife who had harmed his dog, and the next second, the couple was at each other's throats. Then they went to John's former workplace, where they showed his boss's wife some compromising photos taken before he resigned. The wife's breakdown made them a fortune. When they got home and started sorting through the money they had earned, Alice made another shocking statement.
She got pregnant before she met him. Told him it was his and said the baby was premature.
Alice would stop at nothing to make money, and as soon as they arrived at her sister's house, she began her attack.
There's a lie in this room, and we've come to clear it up.
Seeing her sister's pitiful expression, Alice ultimately couldn't bring herself to reveal the truth. But as soon as they got home, she regretted it, while John seemed unusually pleased. To him, it meant that Alice still had some humanity left. But John was being too naive. A new idea flashed into Alice's mind, and she decisively dragged John out to the countryside to dig a hole. Since the world was full of wicked people, why not use them to create more value? John suddenly realized that Alice had turned into a